I'm going to tell you a story about 3 men. Each one of those men had lost someone, and losing that someone had made them feel like they'd lost everything.
At least on this earth, we all will lose the ones we love. That is part of life.
Why me? Why did I have to be the one? Why couldn't she just have lived?
You don't want to know these things. As you say, they don't concern your country. When you go back, you'll only remember the beauty you see here, and nothing else will really be important.
Hector.
Hello?
Get away from me! This is my decision. My time to go.
When you refer to the past lives, of course you speak of reincarnation.
Well, there you go then. Live fast, die young.
I don't think anyone ever gets over losing someone. I wish I could stay here forever, but real life beckons, I suppose.
What you need to understand about life is that life is not a puzzle to be solved. It's a mystery to be lived. What you've got to decide is, do you want to live it?
Yeah, so that was the trailer for the Journey, which actually was my 3rd feature film, but it's really the only one that I think is any good. I mean, I'm still not 100%. I don't think any filmmaker's ever 100% happy with their movies, but you know, I'm only 60% happy with it. Made under very difficult circumstances, extremely low budget, had to rewrite the whole movie halfway through filming. But it still kind of does what I wanted it to do. It's a film that's supposed to help people deal with loss, deal with grief, which is a topic we don't talk about very often. And that's really the whole reason I made the film, because I lost this this friend of mine called Angela Thomas back in about 2009, and she died very suddenly, and I was the last person to see her alive in hospital, so it was a pretty traumatic event. And you know, she was healthy one week and she had a brain aneurysm, collapsed, and that happened on the Friday. My mother had died about 12 weeks earlier or something, not a long time. And then my dad's twin brother died on the Sunday. So that was a proper heavy weekend. And I was on the old Yahoo chat rooms, if you ever remember them, when we all used to talk in chat rooms online.
Yes.
Day, you know. I was on one of those. This is the summer of 2009. So you're going back to the early days of Facebook when MySpace was still a thing, and I was really upset. I was kind of venting in this room, and I don't know to this day who this person was, but suddenly this private chat box pops up, and this person says, "I've been listening to your story. You sound extremely distressed. I think you should come to this island." And I'm like, "Island? What island?" And I'm on an island in Greece, and I'm staying at this hotel. And I'm leaving. They said I'm leaving tomorrow, but the reason I'm staying here is because the hotel owners, I missed my ferry, and the hotel owners were so kind, they've let me sleep in the hammock. So I'm typing to you from this hammock outside. And I was like, "Oh, right, okay." And you know, I thought this was kind of really surreal. It's kind of crazy. Anyway, so I looked up that hotel. I emailed them the next day, and to cut a long story short, So that happened. That conversation happened on Sunday night. By Wednesday morning, I was at that hotel, and that storyline became the basis for the movie, The Journey, about somebody who has lost someone. They go to Greece. They go there with the intention of not really coming back, but loads of other things happen. And in the end, the movie ended up being about 3 people that are going through that experience at the same time, and gradually their paths converge, and each ends up kind of helping the other in some way. And I suppose the core message of the film was, even when you're really distressed and you're going through a very bad time, the best part of who you are inside can still help somebody else who's feeling even worse than you. When I went on that trip, there was a woman I met. She was quite a bit older than me, and she was going through a divorce, and she was very, very upset about it. And I ended up spending quite a lot of time with her and talking with her, and our conversations became part of the movie. So there's all the characters in the film are all based on real people. So it's a fictional film, but it's comes from a very strong place of reality.
Exactly. I know. It's the thing is, Lance, that people, sadly, when they're not in the business, they don't have a full understanding about the hard work for any arts. Because, for example, I know for many people, they are musicians or they are artists, and they think they're doing the things just for hobby, and they're not taking consideration all the hard work is behind. And I think in some way the arts is not appreciated as supposed to be. That's the way I see. And yes.
I mean, yeah, people who don't work in the industry certainly probably don't appreciate just how hard it is even to make a short film is
exactly
a massive challenge. And I remember when Mark was making Homeless Ashes, he called me up one night. He was in post-production. So, you know, everybody always thinks that the hardest part of the film is actually shooting the movie. And sometimes it can be. I think it all comes down to what type of shoot you have, and some shoots go smoother than others. So sometimes that can be the hard bit. And certainly The Journey was pretty challenging. But when we got into post-production, oh my God, so many things went wrong. And, you know, we were editing at one point, and then we were coming back on this edit suite the next day, and all the footage had gone because it had just, like, the edit suite had lost it overnight. And we had to start the whole scene again. And I was on a time limit as well because I'd set a premiere date. So we you know, we couldn't just go, oh, well, we'll take a bit longer. And I remember Mark phoning up and saying, my God, I remember you telling me how hard post-production was. I'm in post-production now. It's a nightmare. And I was like, yeah, you know, it's a lot of things. You know, the film's never finished until the day of the premiere. And even then, sometimes it's not finished. And there's always lots of people that want to, in the indie side of filmmaking, everybody wants to help out with the shoot. Because that's the fun bit. Everybody wants to be on set. Everybody wants to take those photos of themselves on set with a big camera behind them and whack that up on their social media. But, you know, getting in the trenches and doing the really hard stuff, which is like raising the money in the first place so you can be on set, doing all the post-production, overseeing the post-production, coordinating the various different elements of that, and then trying to sell the film. You don't get an army of people lining up to do those things, paid or unpaid, you know. So yeah, it's a process of many stages, and finding a producer, a good producer who really can produce a film. That means taking it from the beginning to the end product, to the premiere day. Finding a good producer like that, they are very, very rare.
Exactly.
Very few people that want to do that, you know. And a lot of the ones who do want to do it are not any good, or don't want to do it for the right reasons. So yeah, I think that's a big big problem is finding good producers is probably the #1 problem of any filmmaker. I mean, I don't really care whether my horror films are made on a budget of 20 million or 20,000. I just want them to be good. I just want them to be original, and I want to be scared. A good example of, and I am a big horror fan, but I'm old school horror. So I like my John Carpenter films and my Tobe Hooper films, and so like the original Halloween, the original Fog. I like The Thing, probably one of the best films ever made, let alone one of the best horror films ever made. But so, you know, to find, the horror market is very saturated. To find good horror, I think is normally quite difficult. But one of the ones that I really liked recently, that they've done two actually, is Richard Oakes and Adam Leader, who I should try and get them to come on your show. I've been trying to get them to come on my channel for ages, but they're good friends of mine, and they did a very low budget horror film called Hosts. And I recommend that. I mean, if you like Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, you're definitely going to like that. And they've crowdfunded the money, very low budget. It looks really good. It's well acted. It's got a great actor called Neil Ward in it. And then they made a second horror film called Feed Me. And Neil Ward is in that, and that's a true story based on this cannibal guy who signed a contract with this other guy who and agreed to eat him and cook him a part at a time. And it's a pretty horrendous movie to watch. I mean, I couldn't watch it again. So False Accounts is it's the true story of what's known as the Horizon post office scandal. So it's a true story about what's fast becoming the biggest miscarriage of justice in British history. And do you know what you know what a post office is, right? Post office. So every post office in the country was given a new computer system in 1999, and the name of this computer system was called Horizon. And it was full of bugs and defects and errors, and one of the things it would do was it would double transactions. So instead of you having books of, say you'd taken £40,000 that week, it might tell you you should have £80,000. So you're £40,000 down. And the big issue was the postmasters, when they run a post office, they have to sign a contract with Post Office Limited, and they're legally liable for any money that goes missing. So if you get to the end of your week and you're £40,000 down, you now owe Post Office Limited £40,000. And then they had a whole department that would come after you and would prosecute you. And so the very people who were causing the problem that was making you lose money were then going to prosecute you for losing that money, and were then going to take away your house, your car, destroy your life, take away all your savings. So we've been doing a play about that, and tone to it, because it's a satire. So our play does have elements of comedy in it, because I felt that the best way to land the message about the story was to make people laugh. So what we do is we go after the villains of the piece with a lot of humor and that's one half of the play. And then the other half of the play is the story of the postmasters, and that's told completely straight, and that has no humor in it at all. And so on the one side of the play, you've got the trauma, and then on the other side of the play, you know, is the unbelievable things that went on that are comical, basically, because they're true.
Yes.
it's probably the most important play I've ever done, because the scandal is still going on. There's a public inquiry going on right now, and there's witnesses in that inquiry like every other day, and yeah, the information that's been coming out of that's been horrendous. You know, the lies people told and kind of things that went on.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's pretty interesting. I've done quite a lot of social political dramas. I did a big one in lockdown, and actually the poster for that is kind of hidden behind my Lego Death Star. But it's this one, 13 Seconds in Kent State.
Yes.
We did that online, and this is a UK cinema quad poster. Decided to get one done for it, and yeah, that had actors in it from all over the world, and we were like streaming it. We streamed it live. It's on our YouTube channel. You can watch it, and everybody had green screens like you've got yourself, so we could give the actors different backgrounds for their scenes, and then they were all in costumes. It was a huge undertaking, but it kept 44 actors very distracted during lockdown, and you know, kind of gave them a purpose and gave them something to do, and they were feeling depressed. And I had a really good lockdown because I wrote 30 scripts in lockdown. 30.
Wow. Yeah, I remember the first time when I interact with you, you mentioned to me about the book, The Diamonds in the Sky.
Oh yeah! Oh, there, you bought one. Look at that.
Yes, yes. But let me do something. I just start with the first chapter, but I need to do it for my full-time job. I'm just organizing, and I got to buy the books from my friends, and especially you, because I know you're a good writer. And my husband, he's the one reading it. He liked it so much. And I need to make time, especially to, you know.
There's Diamonds in the Sky basically is about 200 alien ships arriving on the Earth. And that's actually something I firmly believe is going to happen in my lifetime, because I feel like we're being prepped for that now. You know, the US government has finally admitted, yes, we've been tracking alien ships for quite some time. They've definitely been here. I knew it was coming even back then, and I just wanted to write a book about what would happen if the alien ships arrived, but the government couldn't communicate with them, but it wasn't an invasion. So everybody always does alien invasion. And I thought, well, what if it's not an invasion? What if we don't really know what it is? And the governments can't communicate with them, but slowly and surely some people on the Earth can. And it's not the scientists, it's not the big people, it's the little people. I was always interested in the subject, and I always used to look at reports that came out and different encounters. I'd really try and get the official reports and just the big stories about it. And so the inspiration for the book was, what would happen if they arrived, but the governments couldn't talk to them, and it wasn't an invasion? What would people do? And I wanted the book to be told from multiple storylines all over the world. So there's, I think in the first book, there's 8 characters. I think it's 8. And every chapter is divided up into 3, one section for each character. And there are 12 chapters. So each book has got 36 sections divided by the number of characters in that book, in this case 8. So some of them will get 3 or 4 sections, some of them will get 5. It depends on the character's storyline. And the first book ends on a real cliffhanger. It's like a big cliffhanger. The second book, which goes a bit faster and is a little bit shorter, I've got the second one here. This is the second one, which is called The Orphans of Babylon. And that book is, I mean, it's nearly all action. It's just boom, 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 you know, and it's really fast. Especially the last 3 chapters are pretty much the book isn't really about the spaceships. The book is really about the people. I think it's the people that are going to keep the readers interested, because you want to find out why the ships are here. Sure, that's the overall plot, but you want to find out what happens to the people that you've got to know as well. And I already know the ending. I already know the ending of the whole thing. I've got that one scene very clear in my head. And I know how the series ends, but how we get there, and I know 3 people that are in that scene, but everybody else, how we get there and who's still alive by the time we get to that scene where all the other characters are concerned, I don't know.
Yes.
So still a lot of work to do.
And also a lot to feel inspired, because the UFO and all this topic is mentioned everywhere. And actually, I interviewed John Joss, a filmmaker he's from United States, but at the moment I cannot remember which part of the United States. Philadelphia, I'm thinking. Yes, Philadelphia. And he has an encounter with the alien, and he made a documentary. And it's very well. You can watch this. It's amazing. Yes, I can introduce to you John Johnson. Maybe, I don't know, where you can come up with something.
Yeah, no, I'll talk to him for sure.
Yeah, you never know. He's very nice. He's very awesome. I like him so much.
I'd quite like to get him on my channel and have him come and do an interview with me. So.
Yes, that would be awesome. Yes. And what about the book that you told me that you're collecting the films that you mentioned to me in the last call? What was the name of the book?
Oh, 1988. Right. Okay.
Yes.
That's going to be pretty interesting. Well, because I was hospitalized back in, I think it was around 205, 206, something like this, 2006. And I don't know if you can see, if I put my thumb up to the camera, can you see my thumb has got this scar here?
Yes,
right.
yes.
And it's kind of indented there. See the indent there? Look.
Yes.
So the same time that happened, I had a blood clot in my brain. And in fact, I had 2 of them. And there was a really big one side of my brain, and there was a small one the other side. And I had a stroke, which is why my mouth is slightly kind of like that. And I collapsed, and I was put in a coma. That's induced me in a coma, and I was in hospital, I think, for about 3 months. I was in for a long time. And when I came out, a huge section of my memory was gone. Pretty much everything from, so I'm a teenager who grew up in the 80s. Pretty much everything from the end of the 80s, pretty much all of the 90s, right up until, I think, and a couple of the years before I went in the hospital, it was like someone had taken all of those memories, and if they were represented by a ball of glass, and they had smashed them on the floor. So I had all these fragments spinning around, but I couldn't see how they fitted. And some of it I wasn't sure if I was making up or, just didn't really know. Anyway, one of the things that happened was I found this diary when I was tidying up. This was about a year ago I found this. This is from 1988. So it's got my name on it there. I don't know if you remember that from skateboards back in the slasher deck. And this is the first year I went to the States. So it still has things like my pass from Magic Kingdom and Epcot Center. And then I also have things like this cut out from all the movies that were on at that time. And you see, 1988 was a really good year for films because you had Die Hard, you had Big there, you had Midnight Run, which was another great film, Who Framed Roger Rabbit. That's just to mention a few of them. And so somebody contacted me, an old friend of mine from around this time, hey, I used to go to college with you, and I couldn't remember them, had no memory of them at all. So I decided what I would do, because this is the only year, well, it's the only diary I've got left, where I wrote in the book every day, right?
Mm.
So I decided I was going to turn this into a novel.
Mm.
And so I've basically transcribed it. Look, I've got still got my postcards here from Texas. And yeah, this like little ghost town and stuff. I think this is still here as well, this place. So yeah, anyway, I've turned it into this book. It reads like a season of Dawson's Creek. Lots of moaning of about girls and this kind of thing. But the other thing that I did was I kept a record of all the movies that I saw, right? So and when I saw them, most of them, and I this is a list of some of the films I saw that year.
Wow.
That not all of them, but in fact, there's 8 Men Out up there, which I completely forgot. Yeah, got that one, 8 Men Out. That was a good movie. John Cusack. So what I decided to do was, as I went through the diary and I came across the films that I saw, I decided to review them, but review them as me now. And so, and then I also found a whole load of pictures, photographs that I took from that year. This is not the finished cover, but so these are all stills. And in fact, the girl who contacted me that I can't remember is this girl here on the left, D. And then this is a picture with my favorite, because I went to America that year and I worked on Camp America. And this is Jocelyn Steele, who was my favorite camper, and a really just lovely human being. And I reconnected with her recently. It took me a while to track her down, but until I saw that photo, I had completely forgotten that I'd even ever met her, until I saw that photo and read about her in the diary. Then suddenly pop, those two bits of memory suddenly fitted together like that. And so what my hope was, by turning the diary into a book, I would start to remember things. And that was, you know, I remembered some things. There's a picture of me with a Die Hard t-shirt on there, look, on the left there. And these are all pictures taken from around that time. I think there's a couple that were taken in 87, and I think this one was taken, I think, around 87. But anyway, so yeah, so 1988 is going to be this quite an unusual novel, because it's going to be a diary. It's a true story, because the diary, I've just transcribed it exactly as it was written. I haven't changed anyone's name. Whether that's a good thing or not, I don't know. And then actually, if I show you the actual document of the book, so this is the working draft. So this is written on something called vellum, which might be useful for anyone wanting to write their book. If you're working on a Mac and you want to write in vellum, so these are all the different sections of the book on the left, and then they appear on the right as you would see them. So this is a complete list of all the films I saw that year. And 8 Men Out is there. Yeah, there we go. And you can see that the total is 134. That's quite a lot by anyone's standards. Not all of them in the cinema. I saw about 100 in the cinema. And then these are a lot of these are rewatches on video. So things like The Untouchables I first saw in the cinema in 87, and then I watched it on video in 88. I think 4 times I found I rented it. It's one of my favorite films of all time. And so the rest of the book is literally, you know, day by day account. And then what I do is, under each entry, so this is the night that I took everybody to see RoboCop for my birthday. Because for my birthday, what I'd do is I'd surprise everyone with a movie. So we went to see RoboCop, which of course was an amazing film. And then I've got the entry that was written in the diary, and then underneath I'll put a footnote about what I remember now, or something about that day. So like the cinema that we saw it in is now demolished; it's not there anymore. And then underneath that, I've got a review of RoboCop that I've done from how I think about the film now. So the book is a mixture of a diary plus film reviews, a sort of cultural capsule, really, of that time period. And I gave RoboCop 9.5 out of 10. One of my favorite films of that year. And then I also took 22 people. I had 2 birthday parties in 1988. So cheeky.
Yes.
I had one at the beginning to see RoboCop, and then I brought the other one forward at the end of the year so I could take everybody to see Die Hard when it had a screening of it in UK at the London Film Festival on I think the date was November 22nd, 27th. And these 14 people, friends of mine, turned up one cold morning that I'd instructed them to be there. They had no idea why they were there. And, you know, and I said, look, you're about to see one of the best films you've ever seen in your life, and you're going to be talking about it for years to come. And I was right, because it was Die Hard, and I'd seen it in America already. So you can see the entry on that day. The first thing it says is one of the best days of my life. And it was written in huge letters on the page. So I did it in block capitals. It's got to the point now where there's kind of no excuse. You can go out, the will is there, but to make a film of a certain standard and at a certain level, you've got to have certain things, and those things you can't get for free, no matter how much you beg, borrow, or steal. And a question I often get asked is, who's the most important person on a film set? Do you know the answer to that question? What part of the day do you think the crew most look forward to when they're making a movie? Lunch.
Yes, it's true.
Who makes the lunch? The caterer. The most important person on your set at any level of filmmaking is the catering department. And if the film hasn't got a good lunch, if you're making an independent film with a low budget, I said this to Mark when we were shooting Homeless Ashes. I said, if you want to show the crew that you care about them, wherever we're filming, go and strike a deal with a local pub and give everybody an hour's lunch in that pub and pay the pub £150 for, 10 meals on the menu, or however many people are in that day. And I said, I'm telling you now, that's going to be 150 quid of the money, best money you ever spend. So I would always, on a low budget movie, I would always try and make sure the food was good. Because if the food is good, the people feel they're being looked after and they work that bit harder. I've been, like I said, I've been in this game full-time since 1997, part-time since 1995. And rejections have never stopped me. But I have been doing this for a long time. It's 26, 28 years now. And I still don't have a mortgage. I don't own my own house. I've got very little security, actually. I've got no job security. And I've just reached the point where I focused most of my energy on trying to get production happening. And despite that, I still did 15 plays with pretty much no money. I still did 3 feature films with pretty much no money, various other shorts. So I did lots of other things while I was trying to get money for the big film.
Yes.
And in the end, I had one big project that was going to take my career to a completely different place. And it just didn't happen. You know, it didn't happen for whatever reason. And well, actually, I can tell you why it didn't happen, because the producers were crooked, and they ran off with the investors and got them to invest in a different movie. So and that destroyed my whole life. I'd waited my whole life to make that film, and that the cost of that was extreme. I mean, it wasn't like I was making a little horror movie and it didn't happen. This was a true story World War II film. All the families of the real people who were there, who were these heroes, some of them died, you know, gave their lives for people like me so I could have my freedom and live in a democracy. That was, not being able to tell that story was really difficult. And my career never recovered from that production going under. It's still, I'm almost right back where I started. And I did a big evaluation of my life recently, and I realized I've come completely full circle back to where I started in 1997. And my career is actually no further along than it was when I did my first play in 1997. So for me personally, it's not. That doesn't mean I haven't achieved things. That doesn't mean I haven't had wonderful experiences. That doesn't mean I have any regrets about all the stuff I've done. I don't. I'm glad I did all those shows. I'm glad I made all those movies. I'm glad I tried to make those other films. But I'm not going to spend the next 20 years of my life doing that. I'm going to actually devote my energy to my YouTube channel. I'm going to publish all the scripts that I've written. We live in a society now where everything is about how you project yourself on social media. Somebody somewhere will watch this interview at some point and say, is that the real Lance? And I'll tell you absolutely 100% yes. If I do an interview, I don't think about, oh, I've got to be upbeat and I must project this certain image 100% of the time. And maybe I should, but that's not who I am. So I think it's more beneficial for somebody watching this show if they hear about some of the realities I've experienced, because it's a very, very difficult business. And the bottom line is, it is a business. And people are looking to make money. And there's a lot of people in it that are looking to make as much money as possible by doing as little as possible. And they don't care about anything else but that. And you need to know that that's a reality. And the other thing you need to know going in is you can't trust anybody, no matter what they tell you or who they appear to be. And whenever you sign a contract, never sign a contract without getting your own lawyer to look at it first. Even if that's going to cost you 200 quid, most, you know, entertainment lawyer to look at a contract, you're looking at somewhere between 250, 400 pounds. That 400 pounds that you might spend that stops you from going on a holiday that year or whatever could save you years of grief later. And trust me, I know what I'm talking about when I say that. Still make the films you want to make and tell the stories you want to tell, but always be conscious of the fact that you need to sell those stories. And I interviewed a filmmaker. Do you know Howard Ford?
Yes, a friend of mine, yes.
Oh, there you go. So he's a good friend of mine too. And I love Howard.
Yes, it's wonderful.
I think Howard, if I had connected with Howard instead of the people I connected with, my career would be in a very different place right now. But that's true of many things in life. But I look at Howard and I'm in awe of him because he knows exactly what type of films to make. He makes a type of film that people will want to watch, that has a good script, good characters. They're not always brilliant films, but they're all, you know, I don't think he's made a film that I've watched where I've gone, that was crap. You know, he's done some really good films. He's done some that are so, but there's always something good in them. And I can see how he thinks, and he's got it down. You know, I'm going to make this film. It's about this girl on a cliff. It's called The Ledge. This is the poster. It's about a person stuck on the ledge. It's a murder thriller. You know, within the first 10 minutes, you're hooked. You know exactly what you're going to get. And I interviewed him recently, and I said to him, that's what I really admire about him. He knows what he's doing, not just as a storyteller, but as a producer and a businessman.
Yes.
And I think if you can combine all of those together, then you're going to survive in this business. And I was a good storyteller, and I knew what I wanted to do, but I was not a good businessman, and I was too trusting of people. Yeah, so the first film of his I saw was Never Let Go, and I knew Angela before she did Go. So when she told me she just worked with this incredible filmmaker, it was his first movie, and she gave me a copy, and I watched it, and I was like, this is this guy's first film? And then I found out how much he shot it for, and he had like a crew of like 3 people, you know. I was incredible movie for that kind of money. And yeah, I mean, he's a credit to himself, and he's an honest filmmaker. I like him. You know, everyone I know who's worked with him has had a good experience, and you can't say that about many people in the industry. They've had a good experience with Howard.
Yes, a wonderful person, and I like how he is he dedicated to the followers and fans, and because I told him, you're my friend, but first of all, I'm your fan. And since the beginning, I will start following him. He's always taking his time to reply, you know, the post and things like that. So he's very humble, beautiful person. Yes.
Well,
all right.
Final question, maybe?
No, so yeah, just I learned out more about you, and, you know, and looking forward to meet with you, you know, another time. It was a very pleasant and wonderful conversation, and I learned a lot from you. So
just drop me a message.
Yes.
Do check out my own channel, which is The Outcast Creative on YouTube. We've got a lot of industry interviews on there. We've got 27 of them so far, including one with Howard. We've got stuntmen, actors, choreographers, cinematographers.
Yes, exactly.
I've got directors. I've even got a games designer, I think. And anything creative, if anyone listening to this podcast has got a creative project that's at a stage where there's something I can show somebody, trailer, maybe a really good crowdfunding campaign, it's got to be a good one, something like that, get in touch with us via the Outcast Creative Facebook page, and, you know, you can come on my channel and you can talk about it.
Absolutely. Let's make a plan. Have a wonderful weekend, and speak with you soon, and keep in touch.
You too. Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.